Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're delving through my tiered quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end rankings for Week 13. All players from every game are included in these rankings, and there are no buys this week. With the quarterbacks in the elite tier, I have Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Jackson. It's official as of me recording this video. Joe Burrow is going to play. I think you start him with confidence. Chase finally has 50-point upside again, and he's playing Baltimore. I like that matchup. The next tier, I have Bo Nix, Stafford, Hurts, Prescott, and May. With Bo Nix, he finally has an above-average matchup again. It has been brutal. I think he is going to cook this week. And I think Courtland Sutton does too. In the next tier, I have Brissett, Herbert, T-Law, and Baker Mayfield. With Baker Mayfield, there's a chance that he plays this week. I'm going to have him in these rankings as if he is playing. It's not the most advantageous matchup, but he's really talented. He has Chris Godwin back, and last week was an absolutely brutal matchup for him. In the next tier, I have Dart, Goff, and Love. With Jackson Dart, I have him a little bit lower because I think he's going to run a little bit less. I don't think they're going to take that part of his game away completely, but I don't think we can expect, 10 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown every week. Brian Daboll was trying to save his job and potentially at the expense of Jackson Dart's health. So I think maybe his, floor and ceiling is a little bit reduced, but I still think he's a really good player. And the next tier, I have Purdy, Williams, Mariota, and CJ Stroud. With Caleb Williams, I think he's going to make some plays, but I think they're going to be losing this game, and I think we probably see a much worse game than usual from Caleb Williams, as this is by far and away, in my opinion, the most difficult defense he's had to face so far. In the next tier, I have Cousins, Taylor, and Cam Ward. Cam Ward actually showed some upside last week. His first rushing score, he's had 2 consecutive games with over 25 rushing yards. It's a plus matchup. I wouldn't start him with confidence over some of these guys that generally have played much better for us in fantasy, but maybe there's some upside with a little bit of a rushing floor. That's encouraging to see. And the next tier, we have Rodgers, Jones, and Sam Darnold. This is probably the lowest I'm going to have Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, but these matchups are brutal. Houston's defense locked down Josh Allen. I think they can do the same to really a lot of this offense for the Colts. And with Sam Darnold, he's going to be facing the odd front of Minnesota. When he's pressured, he is erratic. I think that this is a fade game for Sam Darnold. I still think he's going to be able to get the ball to JSN. I still think JSN has a fine volume game, but I do think we get some turnovers from Sam Darnold this week. And in the final tier, I have Sanders, Tua, Geno, Shuck, Young, and Brosmer. With Brosmer, I really don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. I'm going to have him at the bottom. Seattle, while it's a plus matchup in terms of quarterbacks have been able to score on them, the defense is very tough. This is his first start. And while he does have really good players around him, as we've seen with 9, that doesn't guarantee that you are going to be a good real life or even fantasy player for us. So I would exercise just a little bit of caution until we really see what he looks like. Moving on to my tiered running back rankings. In the elite tier, I had McCaffrey, Gibbs, Bijan, and Derrick Henry. Now with Derrick Henry, there is some risk here. The game script could potentially get out of hand if the Bengals are able to build a lead due to Joe Burrow being back in the lineup. But they do allow the most points per game to opposing running backs rather. And so I think Derrick Henry is going to be very efficient. I think he gets some chunk gains, and I think there's a good chance he gets multiple touchdowns in what could be a very, very high-scoring game. On the next tier, I have Taylor, Achane, and Kyren Williams. With Kyren Williams, this is a plus matchup against Carolina. I think that he has the upside to also score multiple touchdowns in this game. It's kind of, we've seen a lot of Devontae Adams short yardage touchdowns at the goal line. That fade route is absolutely nasty. But I do think we get a touchdown from him in this one. In the next tier, I have Henderson, Brown, Harvey, and Hall. Now, with RJ Harvey, I am thinking this is going to be the breakout week for him. It's a great matchup. They have a good chance to win this game. I think they will be winning. I think the entirety of this offense is going to be a plus start for you in terms of, Franklin, Sutton, Harvey, and Bo Nix. So I really like the Denver Broncos' chances and offense in general this week. And I think, once again, we get a breakout from Harvey. In the next year, I have Judkins, Jacobs, Cook, and Hampton. With Amari and Hampton, I'm thinking he comes back. They opened up his practice window, so I think there's a good chance he plays. But I do think at the same time they may lighten his workload a little bit. I think I'm going to have him a lot higher up these rankings in either plus matchups or once we see that he is getting a full workload, but they may exercise a little bit of caution. So I just want to mention that. And with Josh Jacobs as well, it's looking like he's on track to play. If not, Emmanuel Wilson will skyrocket into these rankings. In the next tier, I had Gainwell, ETN, Bucky Irving, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Warren. I want to mention with Bucky Irving, it's a plus matchup. I also am just a little bit curious as to what his workload is going to be. And I think it'll be a lot easier to project kind of where we should have him in rankings once we see what his usage is going to look like. Because Sean Tucker's looked pretty good in his absence. Moving on to the next tier, we have Dowdle, Williams, Genty, Neal, Marks, and DeAndre Swift. With Rico Dowdle, man, Dave Canales, they were really just down one score for a lot of that game, and they just completely abandoned the run. Rico was extremely efficient on a per touch basis, especially on the ground, really through the air too. So the usage was absolutely confounding to me. And this is a very tough matchup against the Rams. So while he's a very, very talented running back, I don't think he's going to have a fun time sledding on the ground in this matchup. In the next tier, I have Walker, Benson, Tracy, Jones, and Montgomery. With Trey Benson, I think we get the return. He is currently on IR, but he has been practicing. It's a good matchup. I want to see what his usage looks like, but I think Trey Benson could be an absolutely dynamic league winner down the stretch because this guy is explosive as it gets on the ground. And in the final tier, I have Pacheco, Hunt, Rodriguez, Spears, and Sharbs. I want to mention with Pacheco and Hunt, it's a little bit tricky to assess as to what the usage is going to look like for Kansas City in the running back rotation here with Pacheco coming back. I think that he probably steals a good bit of the rushing work with Hunt stealing a little bit more of the passing game work. And I kind of want to just have them ranked next to each other. I want to see what the usage looks like with both of them returning because to his credit, Kareem Hunt has been pretty efficient on the ground in the absence of Pacheco. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, AOYOB, and The Dawn. Without your support, this would not be possible. As you're probably well aware if you've been watching my videos for a while, I cannot get monetized because of the film breakdowns I do and even just the little videos I have where I have clips of plays in them. They get demonetized every single time, making it, therefore, impossible to collect any revenue. So, obviously, your support is greatly appreciated. And if you are so inclined to become a member, the perks would be you will get access to a private Discord where we have both a real life and fantasy football chat, as well as a voice chat if you just don't want to have to type a bunch of stuff. I'll also give you detailed roster breakdowns and roster reviews where we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of your team. Then we kind of break it down further by looking into the scoring settings themselves and the starting lineup requirements to help you build the best team to help you dominate for years to come. In both Dynasty and then in Redraft, obviously, I'd help you with a good, solid game plan, especially if you know where you're drafting from. Then also give you detailed trade advice based on your specific league settings to help you dominate. Also give you access to private live streams and the ability to not only see videos at least one day early, but also the ability to suggest videos that you would like to be created. So if you would like to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. If not, just please like and subscribe. Let's get back to the video. Moving on to my tiered wide receiver rankings. In the top tier by himself, I have Jamar Chase. He gets Joe Burrow back. We know what happened both times he played Baltimore last season. I think we finally see the return of the weekly 50-point upside from Chase. In the next tier, I have Rice, Nakua, Collins, JSN, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. With Rashee Rice, he finds himself playing against Dallas. This is a plus matchup. I think there's a lot of points scored. I think he gets a ton of volume and probably scores. In the next tier, I have Adams, Pickens, Brown, McConkey, Lamb, Wilson, and Sutton. With Michael Wilson, it's a plus matchup. They've had a ludicrous amount of passing volume every single week since Jacoby Brissett has been starting. And he's in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s absence, who admittedly did return to practice, but I think in a return from surgery, they're probably going to play it safe. I think he's a top 12 option with a high floor and high ceiling. And the next tier, I have Waddle, Igbuka, Diggs, and Flowers. With Stephon Diggs, it's a favorable matchup against the Giants, and I think they're going to look to get the ball out quickly against that ferocious defensive line that the Giants possess. In the next tier, I have McMillan, Wandale, Shakir, Debo, Olave, and Michael Pittman. I want to mention Wandale Robinson. Boy, did he go off this past week. I don't think that he has that kind of game again. Jameis Winston does miraculous things for his wide receivers, but I still think that Jackson Dart's a good quarterback, and I like the connection that they have. And I think he's a solid wide receiver too. In the next tier, I have Thomas, Metcalf, Jay Jettas, Watson, Odunze, and Myers. With Justin Jefferson, it's hard to have him ranked much lower than this. He's so talented. It's really tough to know what to expect from Brosmer. But I still think that he's a safe wide receiver too, because, a lot of times these quarterbacks, when in doubt, that are backup level type of players, they look to try to hyper target their top tier wide receiver one. So we'll see how this goes. But I think that he's admittedly not the top option he should be based on his own talent. But I think that he potentially sees a little bit of extra volume. Now, the target quality might be questionable, but I still think that he's a wide receiver 2-ish type of player here, technically outside as a high-end wide receiver 3. In the next tier, I have Franklin, Dortch, and Mooney. With Darnell Mooney, he was very efficient on a limited amount of target volume this past week. I think we see more target volume with a little bit less efficiency against the Jets, who, thankfully for him, did trade away Sauce Gardner. So we like that at least for him. In the final tier, I have DK, Jennings, Yosivas, and Mechie. With Mechie, he's establishing himself as the wide receiver 1 for the Jets and has scored in 2 consecutive weeks. I think I do want to be a little bit safe. I don't think he scores every single week, but I do think that he's emerging as a solid flex option, especially considering they have Tyrod Taylor starting. Moving on to my tiered tight end rankings. In the elite tier, I have Trey McBride by himself. Ever since Jacoby Brissett took over, the passing volume has been ludicrous. He's been consistent and dominant and as good of a bet as anybody at the tight end position to score a touchdown. Even without one last week in a down week, he still had over 16 full PPR points without any kind of premium. That's ridiculous production. In the next tier, I have Kelsey, Kittle, Gadsden, Warren, and Bowers. With Kelsey, this is a plus matchup against Dallas. I think he smashes, and I think we probably get a touchdown from him. In the next tier, I have Johnson, Fannin, and Ferguson. With Juwan Johnson, it's a plus matchup. He's been pretty efficient and looks to have a decent connection with Tyler Shuck. So I think he's starting to cement himself as kind of a low-end tight end 1 option on a weekly basis. In the next tier, I have Henry, Johnson, and Schultz. With Theo Johnson, he gets the return of Jackson Dart, who has been Johnson has been one of Dart's favorite receivers. I really like Wandale and Theo Johnson this week. In the next tier, I have Goddard, Strange, Andrews, and Otten. With Mark Andrews, he's a touchdown or bust kind of option. Same thing with Goddard. If you don't have one of these guys that, are kind of the top tier guys, I think they're solid bets, because if they do happen to score a touchdown, you're probably going to get a top 12 week from them. In the next tier, I have Pitts, Loveland, Helm, and Ertz. With Gunnar Helm, we finally saw a little bit more volume from him this past week. I thought he's looked fantastic this season, and I do think he's one of the sleeper tight ends from this class to be very good in the future, especially if they can get this offensive line sorted out. And in the final tier, I have Njoku, Taylor, Hill, and Barner. With Taysom Hill, with Alvin Kamara out, I think there's a chance we get more rushing opportunities, receiving opportunities potentially as well, and just more playing time in general. And I think he's a decent upside bet to score a touchdown this week in what is an extremely favorable matchup against Miami. So where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Let me know below in the comment section if you would be so kind. I would really appreciate your support via Patreon. I'm doing this full time now, so any help would be awesome. If you cannot afford to or you do not wish to, if you could just like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, I would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a good day.